Well, they're planning to change copyright law, and crucially, that will make it easier for AI companies and actually other tech firms to use copyrighted work to train their models without a license. It's not just music, it's everything from literature to journalism, basically everything that is in the public domain of the internet. So developers will be able to use creators' content to develop their models under the new rules. That's unless creators opt out through something called rights reservation. But critics are saying that in practice, this opt-out system would be incredibly impractical and very labour-intensive, and actually virtually impossible when you think about the sort of size and scope of the internet. So there has been an alternative proposal in the House of Lords for artists to opt in instead. But thinking about the consequences of these laws, they're quite far-reaching. So the content could also be used for companies for data mining, and actually even as a basis to generate new content. And that's why the law has been going through something called a consultation period in the UK, which actually ends today. It's received some quite high-profile criticism, especially from figures in the music industry, including the likes of Paul McCartney and Elton John. And then, of course, as you mentioned, there is this silent album released today called This Is What We Want. It's for charity. It includes artists like Annie Lennox and Kate Bush, and it features recordings of empty studio space and other performance spaces, and the track list actually spells out the British government must not legalise music theft to benefit AI companies. So I think it's fair to say they're not happy about the changes.
Okay, so this is the proposal then and the pushback. Has the boat already sailed, though, in artificial intelligence? I mean, I'd argue maybe it has in print. There are a bunch of lawsuits, aren't there, already around what print content these AI models can use or have been using?
Well, in a word, yes, and it's a similar case in the music industry. They've already faced quite significant issues in this field, and they have been doing so for a number of years now. Actually, back in April 2024, there was the musician Drake. He found himself in quite a lot of trouble because he posted a track to his social media featuring an AI-generated version of the rapper Tupac's voice. Tupac obviously has passed away. So lawyers for Tupac's estate sent a cease and desist letter to Drake, and that video later disappeared from his social media. But artists like Drake are trying to sort of embrace the genre and use it creatively. Drake also is no stranger to AI-generated music. He actually sampled an AI-generated song about himself by an internet creator in his own music. So perhaps a bid there to sort of take back control. That's one approach. But music management groups don't seem to be as willing to adopt this technology. Actually, Universal Music Group, when they boycotted TikTok, they pulled their music catalogue from the app. They said AI was one of the three main concerns as to why they did that. Also, major music labels have sued two AI generating music companies for copyright infringement of their recordings, and they said it took place at an almost unimaginable scale. So it's definitely already a live issue for both artists and music management companies, and that's also not to mention battles over AI generated images and likenesses of artists and musicians, which have a much longer legal history too.
Yeah, okay, well, that's a whole other section, isn't it? Look, it's also not a kind of fluffy issue, is it, in the UK, because the creative industries are so important, actually, to Britain and I'm sure to lots of other places.
Definitely. In 2023, for example, the UK music industry alone actually contributed a record £7.6 billion to the economy. And these are the sorts of contributions that the government won't want to lose, especially now as they're struggling to produce the sort of economic growth that perhaps they might want. And I think that's why they've committed to this period of consultation to perhaps get music industry executives and musicians on side. But they're having a tricky time of it, actually. The CEO of the UK's music industry body, UK Music, described these changes as the government basically taking a punt against an already productive and successful industry. And for many artists, it seems really to just be a question of agency here. Actually, despite being a critic of these changes, Paul McCartney, for example, he actually has used AI in his music to recreate the vocals from an unfinished demo by John Lennon to produce a new song.
Yes.
So he's used it, but he's a critic of these new changes. It's also important to remember that the UK has committed to being a real leader in the AI space. It's not long since they released their AI opportunities action plan, and this technology is being seen as a key driver of economic growth. So it could be that this new law, this new change of the law, is one of the steps that we need to get to that place of leadership. But those protesting the change definitely don't think it is.